If you are pregnant or you've recently had a baby, this podcast is for you. I am your host, Kath Bequee, a physiotherapist working in women's health and mum of 3. Join me each week as we dive into all things pregnancy care, childbirth and postnatal recovery, helping you have a wonderful pregnancy and afterbirth experience. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Well, hi there. Welcome to episode 52 of the Fitness Mama podcast. I am your host, Kath Bequee. I am a mum of 3 young girls, a physio for women, and I have an online community, Fitness Mama, which helps to provide pregnant and new mothers with the exercises, support and resources they need to feel good from the inside out as they prepare for and recover from childbirth. Fitness Mama has workouts that are tired mum friendly, achy mum friendly and toddler friendly that you can do from the convenience of your home at the end of a long day or whilst your bubba sleeps or perhaps while your toddler is running around causing havoc. So today on the show, I'm chatting about all things food and pregnancy. This episode is for you if you're pregnant or you are going to become pregnant hopefully in the future. Going to chat about what foods to avoid during pregnancy, foods to help you with your first trimester and that feeling of nauseousness or morning sickness, and foods to help with your baby's development. And most importantly, we're going to discuss simple ways to include these nutrients in your busy life, which don't involve heaps of preparation or pre-planning. So I'm excited to have Kaylee Slater on the podcast today. And Kaylee is an accredited practicing dietitian and nutritionist, and she's a dietitian at the Dietologist. She's based in Sydney, Australia. Kaylee is absolutely determined to help as many women and families to optimize their health and nutrition before, during, and after pregnancy. Kaylee knows that what you eat before conceiving plays a direct role in your child's future risk of some of the most common lifestyle-related conditions that we face in modern society, including asthma, allergies, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and obesity. Kaylee is an expert on all things preconception and pregnancy nutrition, having published her work in 2020 showing the majority of pregnant women are not meeting their requirements for critical nutrients from folic acid to iodine, zinc, and fibre. So alongside her work at the Dietologist, Kaylee is also pursuing a Doctor of Philosophy, so a PhD, investigating the impact that diet and lifestyle changes can have on preventing heart disease amongst women who experience high blood pressure or preeclampsia in their pregnancies. So I'm super excited to have Kaylee on today, and stay tuned because this is a brilliant episode. But before I do jump into this episode, I just want to let you know about the 7-day free trial of Fitness Mama. In these 7 days, you get access to weekly live Pilates classes. You can do as many on-demand classes as you'd like. There's guest expert speakers discussing topics for pregnancy, childbirth and recovery, including hypnobirthing, induction, breastfeeding, mindset and more. And there are also heaps of Q&A sessions with myself on all sorts of topics such as abdominal muscle separation, pregnancy-related pelvic pain, cesarean scar massage, mastitis and more. All you need to do is head to fitnessmama.com/free. Right, let's dive into the show. So, hello, Kaylee, and welcome to the Fitness Mama podcast.
Thanks, Kath. I'm really excited to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
So we're going to be chatting all things diet during pregnancy. What are the foods that's great for your growing baby? What are the foods that are good for you? So it's really lovely to have you on. Could you please start off by introducing yourself and let us know who you are and what you do?
Yeah, of course. So I am an accredited practicing dietitian. I'm based in Sydney, but I work for the Dietologist. So Stephanie Valakis, if any of you have heard of her or do follow her, she is a pregnancy fertility dietitian. We see women and couples virtually So around the world, Sydney-based, Melbourne-based, all Australia-based, world-based. So yeah, we work with women and couples really to optimize their diets for fertility and then also through to pregnancy and postpartum as well. And I'm also completing my PhD on preeclampsia, if anyone has heard of that, and cardiovascular disease risk later in life. So really working in the pregnancy space.
Wow, that's interesting. So you're obviously food, like diet and preeclampsia?
Yep, so more so diet after preeclampsia. So really reducing the risk of heart disease later in life for women who've had preeclampsia or also gestational hypertension.
So a lot of my listeners are pregnant or they've had a baby, but if they've had a baby, they might be going on to have future babies. So let's start off with, why is it so important to pay attention to our diet and the food that we eat during pregnancy?
Yeah, so I guess there's two main reasons why. First of all, because what mum eats during pregnancy as well as before pregnancy really can have a long-lasting impact on the baby. And that's through something known as epigenetics. If anyone has heard of that, it's a bit of a scientific term that basically describes how nutrition, but also other environmental factors can influence the way that your genes work and ultimately the health and well-being of yourself and then your future children later in life. So epigenetic changes, which are unlike genetic changes, don't actually change the genetic makeup, but they kind of change the way that our body reads these genes and the gene sequences. Research basically shows us that we have the potential to modify these epigenetic changes through nutrition, really, and then that impacts our baby's future health and also risk of other diseases like heart disease and obesity and diabetes and those kind of things. So we really do know that inadequate nutrition, but also overnutrition can then basically increase mom's risk of pregnancy complications and also the baby's complications like low or high birth weight. It can affect the development of the placenta, the blood supply to the growing fetus, brain and spinal cord development, and also potentially increase the risk of prematurity as well. So we really do want to make sure that what we're eating during pregnancy can basically give baby the best chance at growing healthily. And then the second reason is because what we eat during pregnancy can also impact the risk of things like listeria or food safety issues. So that's the other reason why we kind of want to take care of what we are eating.
There's a lot to unpack there. And I guess you're calling out all these scary things. So let's try to simplify it. Let's dive into everything that you've just talked about. So let's start with the foods to avoid. I think there's probably a lot of good knowledge around this already, but let's just quickly recap. What should we be avoiding during pregnancy and why?
Yeah, so I'm sure if you've looked this up, you've probably found a lot of information online. There's a lot of conflicting evidence out there, and a lot of people do know basically what they should be avoiding, but I will go through it. First of all, soft, unpasteurized cheeses, so things like blue cheese, brie, camembert, gorgonzola, all those yummy cheeses that are usually on a cheese board.
All the good stuff.
Yeah, and goat cheese is on that list as well, unfortunately. The reason being is because it just really can increase the risk of listeria. These cheeses often have mold on the outside, and for us that are not pregnant, it doesn't matter if we get a little bit sick, but for baby, it can impact their growth and development. So we do want to avoid those. Pasteurized cheeses are okay. Usually on the back of the packet, it will say if it's used pasteurized milk. So just keep a watch out for that. And also hard yellow cheeses are okay as well. So things like cheddar cheese or Parmesan are fine as well to eat.
Going back to all those yummy cheeses, they're fine cooked, aren't they?
Yes, so this is raw. So say you went to a friend and she had a cheese board out and there was brie on the table or on the board. We want to avoid that. But if it's cooked into a dish, it is okay.
Okay.
Cold cut or deli meats, so things like salami or ham or even, the turkey that you get from the deli or the chicken slices that you get from the deli, we want to avoid those. First of all, they're generally quite high in saturated fat and sodium. So really just for health reasons, but then also for food safety as well. Often they're not cooked, they're more cured. So we want to avoid anything that's really not properly cooked. And often they sit in the deli for quite a while. We don't know how long they've been sitting there for as well. But when they're cooked, they are okay. I think, Kathy, you're about to ask that.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask, what about freshly shaved ham that's eaten pretty quickly?
Yeah, if you have it almost immediately within, the first 24 hours, that's okay as well. Just be as mindful as possible, or ask, the deli when they made it. Has it come straight out of the fridge? Just ask these questions just to be as informed as possible, because sometimes they can go in and out of the fridge quite a lot.
Yes. That's something I did during pregnancy. I always felt it was okay to get the ham if I asked them to freshly shave it, but I didn't go that extra step and ask them how long they'd had the ham sitting there for.
Yeah, sometimes it does sit there for a couple of days, because when you're not pregnant, it is okay if it sits there for a couple of days. And, when they do freshly shave it, they take it in and out of the fridge. So just be mindful of that as well. But often they may not know. So sometimes it's always best to just err on the side of caution and avoid it if you possibly can. Choose something else.
Yeah, okay.
Next one, we've got runny yolks. So the famous poached egg or, soft-boiled egg, unfortunately, is off the cards. But if you cook it and it's hard, then that's totally fine to eat. So you don't have to avoid eggs altogether. Just make sure that they're cooked through. Then we also have rare or medium cooked meat, and also fish and seafood. So where I'm going with this is we want to make sure that everything is well cooked. So chicken always should be well cooked, but also beef. So sometimes a lot of us like, say, medium rare meat. We really want to make sure that that's pretty well done. Obviously, it doesn't have to be so grey that you can't even chew through it, but pretty well cooked. No pink in the middle. For fish as well, often a lot of us do eat raw fish, or sometimes for example, you make a salmon and it's quite pink in the middle. We do want to make sure that that's cooked through. And also, if you are going to eat any seafood like prawns, they can be eaten if they're very fresh and if they're cooked all the way through as well. So keep in mind, sometimes when we're buying fish from the grocery store as well, we don't know how long it's been there for. Make sure that you are getting very fresh fish and fresh seafood too.
So going on to fish, we'll probably talk about it later, but in seafood, I know there'd be quite a few health benefits in some seafood, and then others you'd say to avoid because of mercury. What's your take on all that?
Yeah. So really with fish during pregnancy, there's a lot of misinformation and there's a lot of great information out there. So basically with mercury is found in our seafood supply and in the water. So it's unavoidable. And in high amounts, it can become toxic to the baby. So it can get into the baby's liver and become toxic, but that's really in high amounts. So fish does not need to be avoided during pregnancy, but we want to stick to around 2 to 3 servings per week. A serving is about 120 grams. So if you think of a piece of salmon, if you go to the deli or if you go to a fish shop, it's usually just one piece of salmon. That would be roughly around 100 to 120 grams. So you can always ask the person who's weighing the fish when you buy it to weigh it for you, just so you know exactly how much you're having. And with seafood as well, it's hard. You want to make sure that everything is cooked. So no, oysters or mussels or those kind of shellfish that are often eaten raw. But I guess I'll list the fish that we should avoid. That's probably easier than me trying to explain everything. So the first one is flake. Flake is actually shark, and this is often used in fish and chips. When you go and get battered fish and chips, often they do use flake, and often we don't know what fish they use. So just make sure if you're going to go to a fish and chip shop and get some fish, ask them what fish they're using in their battered fish or in their grilled white fish. Just keep that in mind.
So taking that one step further, if they say flake, what could you suggest instead as a white fish?
Yeah, something like a barramundi or a snapper would be a better idea.
Yep. This episode is brought to you by Baby Bee, Australian-owned and designed prams combining quality, safety and style. Not only does Baby Bee let you try their prams at home with free returns for 9 months. Yes, that's 9 months. They also offer an industry-leading 3-year warranty for total peace of mind. With thousands of 5-star reviews, around-the-clock customer care, and up to $300 of free accessories with every pram, what are you waiting for? Go visit www.babybeonline.com and check them out for yourself. And yes, for listeners of the podcast, there is a 20% discount code. Enter FITBEE, FITBEE 20 at checkout, and T's and C's apply. Got it.
Then also swordfish, billfish, marlin, catfish, orange roughy. I think that's how you pronounce it, maybe not. Also broadbill are fish that are high in mercury. So the rules on FSANZ, which is the Food Standards Australia and New Zealand website, says you can sometimes have these fish once every 2 weeks and no other fish that fortnight. Honestly, it becomes really confusing that I recommend to my clients just choose a different piece of fish. Don't go for catfish, go for a different whitefish like barramundi or snapper, like I mentioned before, or go for tuna, go for salmon, just something that's readily available and won't make you anxious about it as well, because sometimes all these rules can become really scary for a lot of people.
Yes, I think simple is best for so many things.
So that's, yes, on the fish and on the seafood as well. Prawns are okay, again, with seafood. Make sure it's cooked really well and stick to only 2 servings a week. And that includes fish and seafood. So not 2 servings of fish and 2 servings of seafood.
Okay.
Then we also have to avoid offal or any pate, those kind of heart or whatever offal you might be eating. The reason being is they are high in preformed vitamin A. And vitamin A in high amounts can become toxic again to baby and baby's liver. So we really do want to avoid those at all costs. So if you do like pate or you do like offal, just avoid them for the 9 months and go for gold once you give birth. Then we also have soft serve ice cream. So normal ice cream that you get, say, from the freezer section is okay. But the soft serve, so say something like a soft serve from McDonald's, that's the kind of ice cream I'm talking about. We want to avoid that. The kind of cracks in the machine can actually introduce bacteria, and that will really increase your risk of listeria and other foodborne illness. And then also it's not properly frozen and it's often sitting in the machine for quite a while as well. So more chance to just introduce bacteria.
And that would be their thick shakes and milkshakes and all those things too.
Soft serve and everything that's made with soft serve. So again, if you're unsure, always just ask before you buy. So the last 2 things, don't worry, there's not much more than that, are any pre-cut salads or like pre-cut sandwiches. So for example, if you go into Coles and Woolies now, you will see that there's often salads and sandwiches that are sitting in the fridge section. We don't know how long they've been sitting for. We don't know how long the ingredients were cut for. So really just try and make your own. Or if you go to a restaurant, you can order a salad, you can order a sandwich. That's okay. But something like Soul Origin, for example, it's the best example that I give. You know, the sandwiches and salads have been sitting there for quite a while. So that's something we want to avoid. But yes, ordering something that they're making there and then is okay. And then last one is just leftovers, just to make sure you're eating them within 48 or so hours. So don't, make a big batch of something at the beginning of the week and then come Saturday and you're still eating it. Just try eat it within the 48-hour mark.
And one that I know there's usually a bit of confusion about is mayonnaise.
Yeah. So if you're making your own mayonnaise, it's fine. But often mayonnaise uses uncooked eggs, especially if you're getting something like an aioli from a restaurant. They'll often make it themselves. So prepackaged mayonnaise is often fine because the packaging process preserves it. But avoid any mayonnaise that's, say, from a restaurant that they're making it themselves.
So jar mayonnaise is okay from a jar. Yeah, that's good. I remember always being a bit worried about that.
Yeah, it can become really confusing because you're told not to eat this, not to eat that, and then you realize all these things that you're told not to eat are in products that you would be using quite regularly. So yeah, just make sure you're informed.
Great. And I think it's one of those things where if you know it, then it's easy to avoid it. Whereas if you don't know it and then you find out you've been eating it, it can be really stressful, or if you don't know if you should be eating. Yeah, so I'm sure everyone listening has probably heard most of that. Maybe, there's an extra one or two you hadn't heard of. So thank you.
It was actually something I remembered that I didn't mention, sorry, and that's fermented foods like kombucha or sauerkraut. We do recommend you avoid those as well. In the fermentation process, it can also lead to bacteria getting in as well. So just try avoid those. If you regularly drink kombucha, just leave it out for the 9 months.
You wouldn't think drinks as well, would you?
No, you wouldn't.
Okay, so let's take a little step back. We've talked about all the foods to avoid. Let's start at the start of the pregnancy. This is one I'm really interested in. When women are feeling really sick, maybe feeling nauseous, vomiting, what can you suggest from that perspective if you're feeling really unwell?
It's so hard during that time because you always feel like you're not doing everything you can, even though you're feeling so sick. The last thing you feel like doing is eating a salad. And I completely understand that. I know when I'm feeling nauseous and not wanting to eat a salad either. So really during that first trimester, the best thing that you could possibly do for yourself is to make sure you are eating something. You just want to make sure you're getting those nutrients in as much as possible. If you're not eating anything, that's where you're not getting those nutrients in. So first of all, if you're taking a prenatal, make sure you take it and try take it at times where you're feeling less ill. So especially if you're vomiting, often if you've taken something straight away and you vomit, it's going to come back up. So try take your prenatal or any other supplement that you've been told to take by a health professional at a time where you're likely not going to vomit or you're feeling a little bit better. But otherwise, during that first trimester, what you can really do is when you are feeling okay, is to try and make sure you're getting just a range of fruit and veggies in, try get some protein in as well, get some good quality carbohydrate. And really, if you're feeling completely awful and you feel like you're really not getting anything in, it's probably just best to check in with a health professional to see if there's something you can do rather than suffer on your own. There's no point in feeling really guilty about it. It's not your fault. A lot of women are in this boat.
And there can be help out there too. So I do know one of the first things people suggest when someone's feeling ill is have some dry crackers or dry crackers and Vegemite. Would that be your first protocol? Like if you were feeling nauseous and unwell, what would you have if you could just reach for one or two things in the pantry?
Oh, I would most definitely reach for a dry salty cracker or like a plain piece of toast. So yes, that's a really, really good idea. And what I often tell my clients is first thing in the morning, if they regularly feel really ill as soon as they wake up, just make sure they have a dry salty cracker, something like a premium cracker, and have that right away. Because an empty stomach is also a nauseous stomach. The hungrier you are, the more nauseous you're going to feel. You're going to be feeling so nauseous, so you're not going to eat. And then it's just going to, spiral out of control. So first thing when you wake up, have a dry salty cracker. And what we find is that saltiness and that dry, carbohydrate can sometimes make women feel a lot better. And also men, if you're nauseous, obviously not with morning sickness, but for whatever reason, can actually help people feel a lot better. And then once they've had that, they're then able to eat something more substantial. So yes, I would definitely recommend a dry salty cracker. If you are feeling really awful, sometimes cold foods are better than hot foods. So really cold foods don't have as much of an aroma, and sometimes really strong smells can make you feel even worse. So, instead of opting for a fancy bowl of warm oats, go for something like a smoothie where you're getting a lot of fruit in there. It'll be fresh, it'll be liquid, and sometimes liquid foods as well help a bit more than solid foods because you're not having to chew, and that motion of chewing can sometimes make you feel a bit more ick.
So dairy won't necessarily contribute to feeling more nauseous?
It depends on the person. If you feel dairy is making you feel more nauseous, don't put as much milk in it and make something more like a juice than a smoothie. So sometimes things that are really creamy can definitely make you feel worse. So it really depends on the person, but find what works for you. I'd probably start off with a big glass of water and then go for something like a smoothie. And if you notice dairy or creamy things or thick things make you feel worse, rather than putting milk in it, put water.
What about coconut water? Would that be really good?
It depends. So a little bit of coconut water is fine. Obviously, if you're over consuming too much coconut water, it will have quite a bit of sugar in it. So ideally, you want to go for cold, normal tap water or whatever water you're buying. But a little bit of coconut water here and there is okay. If it's helping you feel better, then that's okay. But obviously, if you're drinking a lot of coconut water all the time, it will be contributing to too much sugar intake.
So not an excuse to just love your smoothies and have heaps of them every day.
No, yeah, we still want to stick to that 2 serves of fruit every day. So try not go over that. If you're really struggling and you feel like you're eating or drinking too much fruit, and it's always best to just check in with the dietitian or check in with your doctor, and they'll be able to provide you with some advice.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so we've chatted about foods to avoid. We've chatted about the first trimester. The main other one I wanted to chat about was, well, how can we best maximize our diet to help, I guess, support our growing bodies, but also support the baby? Like, we all know it in theory, but I think as busy women, you know, whether or not you're working full time or you might have already a toddler at home that you're caring for while you're pregnant, I would love your tips on, yes, what nutrients do we need to make sure we're getting in our diet? But more importantly, how do we make this easy and accessible?
So really easy and accessible is definitely the way to go. You do not need to be making fancy schmancy quinoa salads or anything like that. Some really essential nutrients are things like folate. So it would definitely be in a prenatal, but we always want to make sure we're maximizing our diet, and then our prenatal supplements are just there to supplement the diet, not to really take over. So folate is found in all of our leafy greens. So if you think of any dark leaf, spinach, rocket, a lot of the Asian veggies, so pak choi, bok choy, those kind of things, you'll find folate in them. So what you can try to do is add those to, say, if you're making a really quick smoothie in the morning, you know, add a bunch of spinach. If you're making a quick and easy salad, not some fancy quinoa salad, you're just, instead of using iceberg lettuce, use spinach. Instead of putting iceberg lettuce on a sandwich, pop spinach instead. Oranges and strawberries are also really good sources of folate too. So strawberries are in season at the moment and they're delicious, really sweet. So add those to your smoothie if you want to, or just snack on them throughout the day. Cut up an orange and snack on that too. Other really important nutrients during pregnancy, something like iodine. So a really easy one to get iodine in is just to swap your salt to iodized salt. It's the easiest way to do it. Most of us use salt in our cooking, so really iodized salt is the way to go.
So can I tell you my go-to salad, which I just love and I've been having for years? If I have no time, or if I realize that I don't really have that many ingredients in the pantry, I always make sure I've got some tin salmon, like the small tin salmon, and those small tins of 4-bean mix. Chuck those 2 tins in together, chuck in a handful of the spinach and a couple of cherry tomatoes with balsamic and olive oil. It's like my go-to salad because I've always got those ingredients personally in my pantry, in my fridge, and I love it.
That sounds super easy and yet absolutely delicious. So really those canned veggies or canned beans and canned fish is a really easy way to just throw things together and you've got it there. One of the easiest things as well is those little cups of rice that you just pop in the microwave and 90 seconds later you've got rice. Gone are the days where you need to sit there stirring rice for an hour and a half and to make it nice and fluffy. So those ones are really, really easy to just throw together.
And don't they have different sorts of rices too now, like the wild rice? So they're better for you, those different sorts of rices, and the brown rice?
Yeah.
Whereas I would never make brown rice because it just takes too long, whereas now you can have those packets.
Exactly. And the packets as well come with brown rice and quinoa mixed together. So you can get your quinoa in without having to make it. Yeah, and legumes and lentils as well. They're really good sources of zinc, which is really important for cell division for yourself and also your baby. So zinc is found in legumes, lentils, nuts, and seeds. Those are really easy ways to just, again, throw a quick and easy meal together. Like you said, Kath, you've got your just canned beans sitting in the cupboard. Now you can also get the Edgel brand has the flavored canned chickpeas and canned black beans, and they're a single serve. So they're really easy as a snack or to pop in a salad, or pop if you're making like a bowl kind of thing with rice and veggies and some chickpeas on the side or something like that. That's a really easy way, and they're flavored. They're really delicious. As well, you can get tuna and salmon in, instead of in a tin, you can get it in a packet where you don't have to drain it. So as well, just they've made it really, really easy for us to make a quick and easy meal without having to prepare a lot of different things. Another thing that people don't ever think of using is frozen veggies. So I think a lot of people are scared of using frozen fruit and frozen veggies in, I guess, the thought that they're processed or the thought that they add things to them, but they really don't. They freeze them when they're at their best. Sometimes it's better than, they've got more nutrients in them than something that's been sitting on the fridge for 5, 6, 7 days. So utilize those frozen veggies. Some of them come in like single serves. So if you're taking lunch to work and you just need a really quick, put something in the microwave and whip it up, do that, and then throw some balsamic vinegar, extra virgin olive oil, and some herbs and spices, and you've got yourself a really easy, quick, and colourful lunch as well, or dinner.
Lovely. Any other key foods that we should be including?
I guess not necessarily key foods, key nutrients. B12 is really important. So keep in mind, if you are vegetarian or vegan, vitamin B12 is found in animal products. So meat, fish, poultry, eggs, also our dairy products. So you might require some extra assistance getting them in. We do have some fortified foods. So a lot of the soy sausages and the like veggie patties and veggie burger kind of things do have vitamin B12 added to them. Some of the milks nowadays, the plant-based milks also have vitamin B12 added to them. So just keep a watch out for the nutrition label. If it has vitamin B12, it will definitely say on the back in the ingredients. So keep an eye out for that. But if you are vegetarian or vegan, it's probably best to check in with your doctor or dietitian just to make sure you're getting enough of B12, because it is a really important nutrient for ovulation and also the development of the baby's brain and nervous system. So keep that one in mind. And then also iron is something that a lot of women are low in before getting pregnant and then also during pregnancy as well. Research also suggests that iron deficiency can make it hard to fall pregnant. So just keep that in mind. Iron is found in a lot of our animal products, so meat, poultry, eggs, fish, but we can also get it from a lot of our plant-based things. So legumes, lentils, leafy greens as well are good sources. So if you want to try the Edgel brand chickpeas or beans, you'll be getting some iron in there, and they're a really easy way to get some extra iron in too. And then omega-3 fatty acids as well. So that will mostly be found in our seafood supply. So if you have your 2 servings of fish per week, you should be pretty good. If you do find it hard, a lot of women find it really hard to eat fish during the first trimester because sometimes the smell can be quite off-putting. So again, if you're having trouble, make sure you check in with a dietitian before taking any type of supplement or anything like that. And then the last nutrient is choline. Have you heard of choline before, Kath?
Yes, I have had a chat to a dietitian previously, but I can't remember what to find it in.
Yeah, no, that's okay. That's what I'm here for. So choline it's not new to the research world, but I guess it's just becoming well known recently. So a lot of the new supplement companies are starting to put it in their prenatals, and it's a really important nutrient for closing that neural tube. So it works together with folic acid to close the neural tube, which is basically the spinal cord and the brain of baby. And it's found in eggs. So eggs are probably our best source of choline. 2 eggs per day will give you around about 50% of your requirement. So 450 milligrams is the requirement. So 2 eggs is really good in that department. And again, these can be really easy. Boil some eggs and they're an easy snack, easy to pop in a salad, easy to pop on top of like a bowl. You can pop them in if you're making something like a rice dish, they're easy to put on that too. So getting eggs in is an easy way to get them. And then they're also found in other animal products, so meat and fish and poultry as well. And then they're also found in mushrooms. So mushrooms are a good way to get them in if you are vegetarian. Shiitake mushrooms are the best, but any mushroom is better than none.
Well, there you go. So I guess 50% of your choline requirements with 2 eggs. Like, that's great, but that then means you've got to make sure you're having enough the rest of the day. So is that why it's so important to check that your multivitamin has choline?
Yeah, and it's also really important to make sure that you're getting the right multi for you. There are so many multivitamins out on the market, it's really, really hard to decipher between what's the right one and which one would work best for you. So again, check in with your doctor or dietitian to just make sure that you're getting the right product for you and that it's going to make sure you're getting all your requirements. Because again, you might have a really good diet and this multivitamin might be best for you, whereas someone might not be able to eat certain things and then a different one is best for them. So there's a lot on there.
And on that note, are there any particular vitamins that you shouldn't have in excess?
Yeah, I guess if you're getting enough of anything in your diet, often we don't need to be taking a lot of extra multivitamins, especially the water-soluble vitamins. So vitamin B, the range of vitamin Bs and vitamin C. Any excess really will just pee it out. So kind of like an expensive pee. But then there are fat-soluble vitamins. So vitamin A and vitamin E, especially during pregnancy, we do not want to be supplementing with those. The reason being is too much can lead to toxicity and they don't come out in our pee like the water-soluble vitamins would. So they can actually build up. So it's always important if you're taking a range of vitamins of any sort before pregnancy, always check in with a doctor or check in with a dietitian to make sure that the ones you're taking are safe during pregnancy. There's a lot of things that might not be safe as well or don't have research on. So always make sure you check in before continuing to take a whole range of different things.
And to have a blood test to check your vitamin levels, is that something that has to come through a GP or can a dietitian prescribe that?
No, unfortunately not. It has to come from your GP. But what we do with our clients is we might email the GP or call them and ask, or we can tell our clients to ask them. And usually the GPs are really good at if a client wants to check something that they'll do it for them. So yeah, it has to be done through your GP.
Yeah, because I remember having plenty of full blood count, tests, but they don't test for vitamin levels, do they?
Often iron will be checked for, vitamin D will be checked for. On the odd occasion, zinc is checked for. Sometimes they'll check folate and vitamin B12. So yeah, it just depends. But what you should definitely do is just ask your GP. If you say, oh, I'm taking this vitamin, I want to check my levels, just ask them because more often than not, they'll say yes.
Lovely, Kaylee. Thank you. I think that's given us some really practical information that we can apply today. And yeah, it's been great to chat about the foods to avoid, foods for when you're feeling nauseous, and also the foods to really help with baby's development. So thank you.
That's okay. Thank you, Kath. It was amazing to come on and to chat about all the stuff. I love talking about this. I could talk about it for hours. So yeah, we love equipping everyone with the information that they need so that they're not confused or worried or anything like that.
Thank you, Kaylee. We'll chat to you soon.
Bye.
And before I sign off, remember my team and I will be putting together the show notes for this episode with all the links, including how to connect with Kaylee at fitnessmama.com/podcast. Also, don't forget about the 7-day free trial if you want to come and do some home-based workouts from the comfort of your home. Have a fabulous day, everyone, and I look forward to you joining me next week for another episode of the Fitness Mama podcast. Thanks for listening to the Fitness Mama podcast, brought to you by the Fitness Mama freebies found at www.fitnessmama.com/free. So please take a few seconds to leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and be sure to take a screenshot of this podcast, upload it to your social media, and tag me at Fitness Mama so I can give you a shout out too. Until next time, remember, an active pregnancy, confident childbirth, and strong postnatal recovery is something that you deserve. Remember our disclaimer, materials and contents in this podcast are intended as general information only and shouldn't substitute any medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I'll see you soon.